Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the 5 characters with the highest skill cap in Smash Ultimate in my own personal opinion. Now these are the characters you have to put the most time into to get the most results out of, and overall the characters that are just really hard to play that I'm pretty impressed whenever people can pull out the best from these characters. With that all said, this is of course my own opinion, so please take it as that, and with that in mind, let's get started. Starting off, we have Pokemon Trainer, and honestly, if we started with this character, having the singular Pokemon by themselves, they probably wouldn't make the list. But when you have 3 different characters all lumped up into one, that you then have to actually physically decide which one you want out at which time, which one is going to be the best one at each time, different percents, different characters, different matchups, learning all of that, yeah, that does become pretty tricky. Now, other than just simply put having to learn 3 characters, which by itself is just insane while trying to learn and learning all those matchups, Pokemon Trainer also does have quite a few hardships about a few of the Pokemon. Now, if we're talking about Ivysaur, that character is, pretty darn good, not way too hard to do anything, has overall really good spacing, a good projectile, good kill game, and that's not really one of the harder ones. When we talk about the other ones though, mainly being Squirtle and Charizard, this is where some of the hardship comes in and some of the skill cap comes in, I think, really just kind of how it works. When we look at Squirtle, he's a character that can do pretty okay without being that good at the character, but when you look at his potential combo trees, he has so much stuff to be optimized. He's a character that at first glance looks like a pretty good combo character, but I mean, if you go into the Pokemon Trainer Discord and if you look at Squirtle, there's just pages upon pages of different combos and different things you can do as this character. And while that is very exciting, as well that means that you're going to have to be putting in a ton of time to getting the result that you want, and that can be really difficult while you're also trying to learn the neutral, and the offense, and the defense, and everything of the other 2 characters. Finally, talking about Charizard, this character is just honestly probably one of the hardest characters to play by himself because he's just not that good at anything. Of course, he is fast, which is great, but his aerials aren't safe on shield. His grab game is all right, but not really all that amazing. Flare Blitz is really risky, and the main reason why you want to pick him up is mainly just because he has a good recovery. Overall, he's a really difficult character, and mixed with all these other characters, it can be kind of hard to decide when you want to pick him, when it's really worth trying to just end off that stock with a forward air versus when you don't actually want to take like 50% damage by getting hit once because you're playing Charizard. It creates a really hard situation for this character, but if you can maximize the potential as them, if you can really just get into Pokemon Trainer's mind, know exactly who to play and when to play them, I think this character has one of the highest skill caps out of all the characters, and yeah, overall, a really good main to pick up. The second character I'm going to talk about is Snake, and I also want to mention this is in really no particular order, probably until the last pick. Now, Snake's a character that I think is just kind of awkward to get into, and I think that's what makes him so hard, because other than just, having a ton of lag on his aerials and having a lot of lag on all of his tilts, he doesn't even really focus on those. When you look at almost every other character, they're throwing out aerials, they're throwing out tilts, that's their main focus, but with Snake, you're using grenades, you're using your Nikita, you're using your down B the C4, and that's kind of the main reason why you want to pick up this character and the main good things about him. Of course, he still does have a pretty good grab game and, decent damaging tilts and decent kill moves, but those are the main things to pick up and the main things to learn at Snake. A thing I'll say about Snake is that if you want to pick him up and if you want to main him, of course you can sometimes just go brain dead, throw a ton of grenades and hope it works. But for the most part, that really won't work. And when you have to do instead is just play a Galaxy Brain level character. You have to throw your grenades where your opponent is probably going to be, block off a lot of terrain, make sure that you can approach them while they aren't really able to approach you with your grenade in your hand, be able to create a ton of setups where your grenade knocks into another grenade, which then can knock into a certain one of your moves, or maybe your forward tilt knocks into your grenade, which knocks into one of your moves, or maybe you could do like a throw into your down B, the C4, or maybe something that can lead into Nikita. You just kind of have to prepare everything as this character. Figure out all your settings, figure out all your setups, and figure out all your ways to finish off stocks, to get damage, to do all of that. Overall, when I'm watching a Snake player, I'm thinking to myself, how are they even doing this? It really is quite difficult and something that I personally couldn't pull off. But a lot of people are able to do it, and I think overall he's one of those characters that has an extremely high skill cap, mainly because just how different he is, and as well because it is very difficult to keep track of all those different things that he has to keep track of, literally every single game, all the time. The third character I want to mention here is Ken, and if you know anything about me, you know that I really wanted to main Ken before the game came out, but as it kind of went on, I kind of figured out Ken's really not that great and takes a ton of effort for honestly kind of minimal reward. But if you want a character that has a high skill cap, I mean, Ken's honestly probably one of the best ones for that. Now, the thing that makes Ken, and I guess to a degree Ryu, so difficult and so weird to play is the fact that A, they have 2 versions of all their tilts, the light and heavy. B, they have 2 versions of all of their specials, and Ken in specific actually as well has 2 extra moves that nobody else has with his special inputs. All those put together mean that, just simply put, picking up Ken is extremely difficult, and when you're playing him, you have to decide between all these different options all the time. What's the best? What's the worst? How am I going to space burst this? How am I going to continue my combo? What should I be doing it every single second? And yeah, that can overall add up to a character that kind of feels like you're always making the wrong decision, but if you can figure out the right decision, can get a ton of reward out of it. I also wanted to mention here that Ken doesn't really have that much range, and he's not quite as fast as he should be, considering, he is the faster Ryu. He's just about as fast as Mario, which is, pretty disappointing. But if you can get in, and if you can get past those difficulties in his neutral, you can get so much damage, you can get a lot of potential kills, and while a lot of the times his crescent kick, probably one of his main combo starters, doesn't really work that well, I'm sure it'll be fixed in the future, or at least I hope so, and if that works out, he'll overall be one of those characters that, yes, is super hard to pick up, that yes, will probably take months on months to actually be essentially playable in competitive games, but once he's there, I'm sure we're going to see quite a few good Ken players, at least if they aren't versus way too many sorties. Moving on to Peach, I'm actually kind of glad that Peach is a really difficult high skill cap character that's also potentially the best character in the entire game. Now, when we look at a game like Melee, we see Fox, a character that takes a lot of inputs, that's really hard to get into, but as well that you can actually play at a pretty low level and still do pretty well. And I feel like Peach is kind of in the same boat as that, where she has an extremely high skill cap. You can do just amazing things with this character, with flow cancels, with just getting out damage, with her huge combos, with her projectile, with all of that, and as well with her edge guarding and everything that she can do. But as well, you can actually do pretty well as her without actually having to put in way too much time, which makes it that she's somewhat noob friendly, not the best, but somewhat, kind of like a middle skill floor, but an extremely high skill cap, meaning a lot of people can get into her, can do pretty well, but then can move on essentially to forever. I think she's one of those characters that's going to just have a ton of potential combos that we aren't seeing, a ton of potential setups that we aren't seeing, and it's just going to take time for those to eventually come out as this character. That makes her really exciting for me though, and it makes her a character that I'm just hoping that someone can pull out every single thing that they possibly can. She's one of those characters that has some of the most Twitter clips out of everybody because there's just so much in her repertoire, and that down tilt into her combos alone, that creates so much pressure for this character. Overall, an amazing character, probably one of the best in the game. Will probably take months for people to maximize, but even though people aren't there yet, she's still doing great. So, it's kind of just like she's got more places to go and is already doing pretty good. Can't ask for way too much other than that. The final character I'm going to talk about is probably the most weirdly controversial character, and that's going to be Ice Climbers. Now, Ice Climbers is just so weird because they're a character that doesn't really have that great of a neutral. Their moves aren't that far range. They don't have that much speed. Most people could just kind of beat them out, and it's just kind of awkward to get in as them. It's kind of awkward to play defensively as them. Nana is oftentimes really stupid and kills herself or just gets hit, and it just kind of sucks. But, she has all those negatives, all those bad things about Ice Climbers. But as well, if you happen to get a combo started, it could just be a simple put 0 to death on every character if you can maximize it. And I think that potential, while it might just honestly stay in just potential forever and no one might actually be able to get out into real games, the potential that they can do this, and the potential that they can get a kill off a grab, or they can get a kill off a down tilt, or an up tilt, or a down B, or just a ton of different moves getting a desync, makes it that they're a character that just has so much potential in everybody's eyes. They're a character that, you think, hey, maybe if I can maximize this character, maybe if I can get to the top of their skill floor or their skill cap, I can just do amazing, but that's gonna take a long time. But I'm gonna have to learn all the possible things they can do. For most people, I'm gonna say they probably aren't really willing to put in the effort, and we don't really even know if the effort's worth the time, but these characters do have a lot of stuff potentially going for them, even though it might not actually happen. Overall, I'm really excited to see kind of where Ice Climbers go in the future. They might just end up being a pretty garbage character that has potential kills that just don't really actually get set up way too easily, that you can't get an actual match, but maybe someday people will be able to find the setups. It's a really interesting character to watch, and as well, yeah, there's just so much potential off this character's damage output, so I think that they will always have some of the highest skill cap, but we'll see how good they become as the months roll on. But anyways, there you guys go. Those are at least my own opinion on the 5 characters that I think are the highest skill cap or the hardest in Smash Ultimate. Now, if you have your own personal picks that I did not get over, please leave those down in the comment section down below. I know that there are a ton of different characters in this game. Some of the people think are super easy, some of the people think are super hard, but I'd like to know what your personal opinion is with that. As always, guys, leave a like if you want to see more videos like this, press subscribe to see them as well, and the top of the screen right now is a playlist for more Smash Ultimate videos, and top 5 lists like this if you want to see those. As always, guys, thank you all for watching, hope you enjoyed, and have a smashing day.